Professor, you're muted. Professor, you're muted. You've been muted the whole stream.
Thank you.
And I have no hearing about this. Or the intro.
All right, hold on 1 second. All right, so we're having some technical difficulties. It looks like Adam Maxwell is still leading, so let's go ahead and restart it. Basically, I'm sorry. Basically, I made the prediction that Zelensky would he would be basically a failed dictator. The war would be over, and we'd be back to square one, so to speak. So I want to roll this clip. I don't know. Can you hear the clip, Adam? By the way,
couldn't hear anything the entire time, and I was messaging.
Okay. All right. Let's start this over again. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Here, let's go ahead and start it all over again, guys. Sorry about that. For some reason, I'm having technical with it. I'm going to restart everything again. 1 second. There we go. And we're good.
What will happen in Ukraine?
Personally, I think that Ukraine will it will be defunded, and you'll see what happened there, like what happened in Afghanistan. The United States will pull out, funding will pull out, and eventually it'll erupt in chaos. And Zelensky will leave, and he'll flee to the United States to avoid persecution. And then you'll have a new regime.
How many young men have died for this pointless war that led
more this time? Yeah, it was a pointless, fruitless war over oil and gas and Donbass and the Crimea Sea. That's it. All these conflicts over the last 2 decades, even going back to the first Gulf War in the Middle East, is over oil and energy. They're energy wars. It's just an extension of energy wars from Bush Senior administration on.
All right. So basically, the situation is, I made this prediction back at the Yemenis. It was Straight Talk podcast volume 3, Yemenis, where you can go scroll through on the Rumble channel. I posted it on all the other channels that we're on. And I made the prediction that basically the war would be defunded due to the economic situation as we've been following. I predicted there would be a economic event in 2025, which we saw with the crypto market, 30% corrections and a lot of cryptocurrencies, predominantly in the alt coin sphere, as well as stock market saw a little bit of a correction where I said that this would happen about February, March, to the end of second quarter, which it did, predicted that to the T as well. Not financial advice, but yeah, I made that prediction. And then it would result in Trump calling Zelensky to a meeting, which we're about ready to see, and telling him the war is over. So let's go ahead and bring that clip up. All right, Adam, are you able to hear everything? Is everything clear? Is it coming in? Perfect. All right, let's share this. I for some reason, I posted it on StreamYard. I put in somehow, and it may not, the audio may not have come through. So we're doing this again. I'm sorry, guys. We're going to watch this clip. Many of you guys have already seen this clip, but we're going to watch it one more time.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You
God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very
You
strong.
will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about
From
it.
the very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown,
position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having
not
cards.
playing cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm
Yeah,
very
you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
What do you
You're
think about-
gambling with
what do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And
You-
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to
Far more than a lot of people said
I'm very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting, have
today.
you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No.
Can
You've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this.
I,
You have a damn good chance of
We are
coming out
staying.
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
allowed.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid
thank-
president, $350 billion.
You
We
voted
gave
for
you
your president.
military equipment.
You
And your
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
in 3
okay?
days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I'll tell you.
You say thank you,
I said a lot of
except
times
that there,
sacred
except
to
that,
American people.
except that there are disagreements. Let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. You're People are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me. That wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks?
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Let's get back in the mode here. I don't know what just happened. There we go. So what do you think, man? What do you think, Adam?
You don't have the cards, buddy.
He's like, cards? What cards we talking about? We're not playing poker here. I'm in the White House. I'm in the Oval Office right now. Am I right? What's going on, man?
But it's chess, not checkers. It's chess, not checkers. So he's in a position which is terrible. And the thing about chess is, like, no matter which position you're in, the moves before don't matter. The moves, that you hope to make in several moves don't matter. What matters is what the board looks like right now. What's the position? And as Trump says, the position is bad for Ukraine, good for Russia, which means that it's in the Ukrainian interest and the Russian interest too. It's in the human interest to bring an end to this war. And what Trump is saying is, if you keep going down the strategy you're aiming for, your position's going to continuously get worse or progressively get worse. You're going to lose more territory. You're going to lose more cards. We are, the best time to negotiate was yesterday. The next best time to negotiate is today. We need to, eventually the war's going to end. We should negotiate this end. And it's better to have us, the United States of America, supporting these negotiations rather than the alternative, which is Ukraine or Zelensky saying we don't want to negotiate, and so USA withdrawing their support, which is going on currently.
Yeah, I mean it's a shit sandwich, and everyone's got to take a bite of it, And unfortunately, America's taken the biggest bite so far, other than Ukraine and the Ukrainian people. They got lied to. I mean, as they always do with these wars, just like going back to the Georgian Estedian conflict, they got lied to by someone known as Bush GW. And he's like, I got you back, man. Go ahead and invade Ostedia. We got you, man. We got you. And then that war lasted 3 days. Like it was unbelievably destructive. I mean, it's horrible. So as you guys know, I'm here in Tbilisi, Georgia, and I arrived like 2 years after that conflict, and you can still see the repercussions of that war in Georgia and the economy, building, infrastructure. They completely destroyed Gori. Gori was leveled. They had to rebuild Gori, which is the closest. It's one of the smaller cities. It's birthplace of Stalin, and it's right next to the Estedian border. But it was completely leveled, and the repercussions, we're still feeling the repercussions today here in Georgia from that conflict, that fruitless conflict that Saakashvili got us into, who happened to be the governor of Odessa shortly before Zelensky, the failed dictator, took over and completely destroyed Ukraine. And I believe the words that I recall, and I quote, this is the most corrupt government I've ever worked with in my entire political career, end quote. Yeah. Any words of wisdom on that, Adam?
Ukraine is a corrupt shithole.
Yeah, I've been
The
there.
other thing is, one has to recognize that the world of politics is wrestling, and Trump, he's up there as a great WWE presenter. That it's not to say that the events themselves are fake, but it is to say they're scripted. It doesn't mean reality isn't supposed to be the primary driver, although in the West it's not, in Europe. But it is scripted in the sense that Zelensky went to the White House and was Zelensky, and this was a strategic omission and a strategic failure. Trump and Vance, they war gamed it out. They said beforehand, we are going to confront Zelensky and evoke a reaction. This is what we need to get out of the meeting. Here's how we're going to position ourselves. So when Vance says you should say thank you, it's not because Zelensky's never said thank you, although it's because Zelensky's posture going into that meeting was not one of hello, dear partners. First off, allow me to say thank you so much for all the support we've received so far. I recognize evolving realities. Your support has been the most critical factor. We're ready to work with you in order to achieve the best outcome moving forward. He goes in saying, we need more money, we need more bullets. We'll give you the minerals so long as you help us defeat Russia first and invite us into NATO. And Trump and Vance were confronted that, shut that down and said, look, we mean business. Here's what's going on. Here's the reality. We're going to put a stop to your delusions, your narrative. We just need to beat Russia, just retake all our territories, retake Crimea, and then, we can work out from there. It's like, that's not what's happening here. You need to accept that, Zelensky. So this is why Vance said, you didn't even say thank you. And then the other thing, Zelensky, I mean, this man, he's in the White House, I think it was the Oval Office, speaking to the president and the vice president. I think he said Vance or JD at one point rather than vice president. And he says something which is so absurd that, in a dialogue, you allow the other person to speak, unless they say something so absurd that you cannot allow that to stand. So when Zelensky says, we've been alone from day one, Trump says, he jumps in and says, no, you haven't. America's been with you from day one. You couldn't have got anywhere without this. And then Zelensky tries to speak up and speak over the president of the United States in the Oval Office. And Trump's just like, no, this is what's happening. And that's the disrespect. And it's a strategic lack of intel, a lack of strategy, a lack of preparation, and a lack of fundamental understanding about what's going on, which means that Zelensky hasn't been aware of the world and the evolving script and the positioning of the United States of America. He's just been following the same script that started in 2022. And that's kind of why this happened. So it is a scripted event. It doesn't mean it's not real. It doesn't mean there's not consequences. And it doesn't mean it's fake. But wrestling isn't fake. They're actually doing those moves. It's gymnastic. They are doing some hitting. It's a fantastic show. And that's what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is we're first in line here from Ukraine. We've seen a huge influx of refugees and people fleeing for political reasons from both Russia and Ukraine and Belarus. I've met a lot of these people, and they've come here for political reasons. But as soon as this video came out that we recently watched, and like my predictions as they are, I noticed a lot of Russians are leaving and going back to Russia. So I don't know if they were leaving for apolitical reasons or if it was just because they didn't want to be in the crosshairs of a expanded global conflict between Russia and NATO. Now that we know that this war is done, it's officially done. I've been predicting that it would come to a conclusion. I was off. I said, but I predicted that it would be in the previous podcast for you guys that had followed me for the last year and a half or so that I've been doing this. I said the Republicans would try to defund it prior to Trump being elected. And that did happen. Then I said, it will end when the economy ends. And we're at that crosshair now because we are officially in recession in the West and Western economies. We are definitely in recession. Germany and everyone has come out and said they're in economic depression. Georgia right now, a news article just came out last 2-3 weeks ago or a month ago and said that they're predicting major retraction in the global and their GDP numbers. And I've been saying this. We did a podcast when I first got here 3 months ago. I said, dude, I'm just taking a look here with everything going on. There's no tourism here during the New Year's Eve events. It was just, there was no one here. There was just no tourists. And usually there are tourists here because Kiev is shut down. Most Russians went to Kiev before the war for vacation, and a lot of people went to Odessa, different places in the region for they usually will go visit family, or they'll go overseas to go to these different capital cities and celebrate New Year's. There's no one here. New Year's was dead. Everybody was at home or out in the village or whatever. And I went to the downtown area. I live streamed it on Twitch and here on Rumble, and I showed you guys there's just nothing going on. I was showing you the cafes, and there was just no economic activity. And it's been that way since I've been here, going into March now. There's no economic activity. You can see a retraction. This is direct result of the Ukrainian conflict. Sorry to get well-winded to go in a tangent on that, but I mean, like, there are repercussions of this in Europe and Georgia and the Caucasus.
We
and Russia
are
and everywhere else.
fighting war against Russia, and that war is being felt economically because it's being stolen from people via taxes and inflation, and so people are feeling the economic consequences.
Well, trade as well, because that's the other.
Yeah, in war you're not trading. I mean, there still is purchase of Russian goods and whatnot and gas, but yeah, this is the economic consequences of war. Now, okay, we in Europe don't have troops on the ground. Well, not in large numbers anyway, but we're still engaged in conflict, a hot conflict against Russia, and that's a large driver of all the poverty and turmoil. And this is exacerbated by all the other fundamentals that we talk about, that, our economy here is fake and gay, and it's just masked and covered up by the financialization of the economy and money printing.
Yeah. I mean, we were seeing this recession. I was saying, looking at the numbers, we were going into recession to COVID. We were seeing some recessionary activity. It wasn't well known. I didn't even know at the time. I didn't see it. I saw it afterwards when I started making a comment about it on the Telegram group, links in the description. And I started commenting on social media, on YouTube, on my channels. I wasn't posting podcasts at that time, but a lot of the people that I was following, I was basically posting on theirs. And all of a sudden they were like, huh. And then they started looking at it and they were like, yeah, you're right. And then they started basically saying, yeah, we were heading into a recession in 2020. And I even Gerald Celente, who I talk to very often, where we follow each other on LinkedIn. I was like, dude, like, we were hitting recession way before this COVID. And I think COVID there was a reason why they took advantage of COVID as a smokescreen, to basically cover up a major recession coming. And he took it, and he was like, he did more research, and he came out and was like, yeah, that's really what it looks like. And he, went full throttle on that and went in depth in his analysis on that. I just basically did the basic analysis, but he went further. But yeah, you can look at it, you can see it, and you can see it in the economic activity. We had a double dip recession. We had a recession in 2020 going into COVID, and then we had another recession 2022, just shortly after the lockdown stopped. We went to a little bit of a dip, and then now we're going into stagnant economy. You're an economist, so you know the terminology better than I do.
So first off, you talk about double dip recession. Remember, these are with the government fake numbers. So
it could be worse. It could be worse. It could be worse. Yeah. Definitely. Sorry.
And then what the description of what we're experiencing now is stagflation, which is where economic production decreases and inflation is high. So you have kind of a double whammy.
So you have high interest rates, high inflation, runaway inflation, and then you have lack of GDP growth or lack of economic activity, basically stagflation. Yeah, that's textbook definition.
And the other definition is high unemployment.
Oh, I talked about that in a previous podcast. We got 10,000 views on that, guys. And if you haven't checked it out yet, I'm sorry the audio was really shitty on that. I've been working with this, I've got new equipment and better bandwidth and stuff and tweak some stuff, got better cameras and everything since I started. But yeah, I broke that down. I talked about the fake and gay job numbers and how basically these, not so much LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is a networking site basically, but a lot of these job advert sites, I'm not going to name names because I don't get sued, but they are posting fake ads, and there are people that haven't come out and said anything yet, but there are people that I know because I work in training, corporate training, so I know these people and I talk to these people and I've done my own investigation. I've talked about it on that podcast. I'm gonna link these videos in the description as well for you guys to click on. But yeah, what I was talking about is what I uncovered was basically a lot of these job advert sites that you guys know who they are, because everybody watching this is obviously probably looking for a job or looking for a better job. They're posting fake ads to get clicks and to get your information. So they get you to click on this site or this job advert. You give them all your information, then they sell that to a third party. And on top of that, you get no response. And those that do respond, like I've been getting, oh, we went with someone else, and a lot of times they don't even respond. I actually get responses because I'm a high valued, high valued expert in my field. So people at least give me the common courtesy to write me back and say, unfortunately, you're just not, you're not in our criteria, or your salary expectation is a little too high for us, or we're just, in a nutshell, we just basically posted this ad and we're just seeing what kind of people are applying, and we're realizing that it's just not within our range. We're looking for basically entry-level people, and it is what it is. It's fake and gay economy. The job numbers are fake. I'm just going to tell you straight up. The unemployment right now in China, from what I'm getting, is 40% plus. That's not just youth unemployment. Youth unemployment is probably over 50%. But just the average unemployment numbers that are coming out of China right now is like 40% plus. The unemployment numbers I'm getting here in Georgia, just ballpark, just because I work in, I'm here and I talk to people and I'm in the industry. It's probably 30% or higher. Europe, it's probably, what do you think in Europe where you're at? You're in Bulgaria. You think it's probably high, like 30s, maybe 40s? Do you see a lot of unemployed people there? You're muted, by the way. Just letting you know.
I have no idea. I'm more insular. The thing is, what is unemployment, right? Because like a lot of people in villages, they don't have jobs.
They're not counted. Yeah.
I do know it's struggles in city, but is someone, so we have like an unlicensed taxi app. So if you have a car and you don't have a job, you can just sign up and do like Uber, but without. Is that unemployment? Like, you're still earning income under the table.
Well, there's unemployment and there's underemployment. And when you put in when I'm talking about unemployment, I'm talking about underemployment as well. So my number is probably a little bit higher than what you're getting from mainstream. But nonetheless, the employment, I would say, is people that are seeking a job. So you could be doing a gig economy while you're seeking a job. So you're still unemployed.
I'm reading it's somewhere between 4 and 5.5%.
In America?
In Bulgaria. In America, let's try USA.
It's probably about the same.
The USA is about 4% officially.
Yeah.
Like, these aren't terrible, right? If I look up Spain, right,
well, 4%. Ideal is 2 to 3%. It means that there are people. The vast majority of people are just not
full employment. Yeah, you want a little bit of slack in the unemployment markets so that people can change jobs, and there's employers have some.
Yeah.
There's some labor pool for slack. Spain, for example, as of the end of last year, unemployment rate was over 10%, which actually is not as bad as it's been historically. Unemployment rate in Spain averaged 16% from 1976 to 2024.
Well, the other thing too, not to cut you off, but the other thing too is in a lot of these European countries, the employment numbers are probably pretty accurate. And the reason why they're pretty accurate is because the government's priority is to get people employed, because they receive unemployment benefits and welfare benefits when they make claims, and apparently they keep them on some type of substance, some type of welfare assistance until they can find employment. And then they basically will get to a point where they're like, we're placing you in a job. So those numbers are probably fairly accurate versus in the more westernized, like UK or American type economy where it's fake and gay. They basically don't give a shit, because once you run out of unemployment benefits or any type, there's nothing, you don't get shit. You're done. Like basically you're just going to go live on the street. UK a little bit less than the United States, but the United States, if you don't find full-time employment 3 months after leaving a workplace, the odds of you finding a job is very, very low. 6 months, forget about it. You might as well change careers or go back to school or go, start a gig economy, like drive a taxi or YouTube channel or find something to do, because like you're probably going to be what we call habitually unemployed and basically going to temp agencies and taking a job at McDonald's, if you can find that job. This is the downfall of service-based economies. And the simple fact that we spent how many billions of dollars were sent to Ukraine officially, unofficially was a 500 billion.
Trump says 350 billion. I think official data 200 billion, and Zelensky says 77 billion. So $250 billion.
I would say it's probably Trump's probably closer to the numbers. He probably knows the numbers better than I do. He's a numbers guy.
Sure, but a lot of that money never went to Ukraine, but was spent on.
Oh yeah, it's defense contractors. Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. I worked in the industry for a little bit, not as a defense contractor, but as working, training personnel and stuff like that. Because that's what I do, is I train people. But yeah, like it's as far as what I do, it's not good right now, because like I said, I do corporate training, I teach I work in education, technical training for languages and stuff, and I'm looking at job boards every day, and it's very slim pickings, and I'm an expert in my field, so I'm like one of the top people, and I'm applying, I'm getting responses definitely, but they're like, oh, the salaries are cut in half. They're just like, yeah, I'm sorry, I know what you normally get, but we're gonna have to pay half that. And I'm like, oh shit, it looks like I gotta go find a job, different career. And that's what I'm trying to tell you guys, is like, if you're like in your middle ages, like you're a millennial or you're an X-gen, I mean, you better stick to that job, or at least like try to find a gig job or some type of side business, because you lose that, you may not be able to find another job again until this economy bounces back around. This Make America Great Again concept and comes into fruition. But I mean, you may have to, we're back in like 1990s Clinton era at this point.
This is one of the things about Trump's tariff policy. On the one hand, prices go up and maybe GDP is hurt in the short term. On the other hand, you're kind of bringing back jobs to America, especially manufacturing. And I mean, I've heard on Twitter, I saw someone say, I don't want a manufacturing job. I like being I
want a manufacturing job. Give me a job. Yeah, I'll do that.
Parasitic office person. That makes me superior to those people that have to manufacture. And I'm just like, what a terrible.
Yeah, what a beta little bitch, dude. Beta male. Yeah, like if I got an offer tomorrow to go work as a shift manager at a factory, paying basically what I was making before.
Not a shift manager. You gotta produce. You gotta make the tables.
Oh, dude, put me on the line, dude. You pay me close to what I was making before, even if it's somewhere near that and it's a livable wage. Fuck yeah, I'll be there 15 minutes early and I'll leave 15 minutes late every day. Yeah, no problem.
So
I got a PhD. I don't care.
Make America Great Again. A lot of these jobs aren't in America. There's criticism that taxing people, or tariffs are taxing people. It does hurt. and it does cause damage, but it also does cause some benefits. Now, I never thought I'd be one defending tariffs, and I'm not. I'm just saying when you compare tariffs as a policy to the neoliberal economic agenda, it's not black and white.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we saw this during Reagan. He was a tariff president, just like Trump. Trump's basically run. He's a lot of the people in Trump's administration, or at least people that are his consultants, people that are consulting him. A lot of these guys are old Reagan guys, Reagan economics guys, and everything he's doing is exactly what Reagan did in the 80s, what's rebounded the economy to an extent. I mean, we can. This is debatable, of course, if there was any type of rebound in the economy, but we're literally like what he is doing. And he's going extreme too. So he's not only doing Reagan economics, but he's doing like Trump economics. So he's doing, he's auditing, and he's getting rid of the fat, and he's doing the same, I guess, what is it? The global trade or foreign policy as Reagan. And he's strong. He's strong leadership, doing my hand gestures. He's doing strong leadership. And with this strong leadership, he's saying, hey, look, world leaders, you're going to cave or you're going to do what I'm doing. And if you don't do this, face consequences. And that's what he's doing. And Reagan kind of did that a little bit.
Big tariffs.
Yeah. But what Reagan's right? Go ahead.
The empire is back. The emperor is back. The empire is back. He's flexing American power, which is economic, and it's always been economic. They've had the military power, sure, but every time they've applied military force, generally it's failed. Now you could say Desert Storm maybe was a success, but Yugoslavia, Serbia.
Well, we could go through the list.
Libya,
we could go through
Vietnam,
Mogadishu,
Afghanistan,
North Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, Nicaragua, Cuba.
The American
Vietnam.
superpower has been historically economical, and it still has the potential for this. But we've seen the hollowing out of American industry, and industry is power. That's how America came to be so powerful, and it's to the point where Russia, with 140 million people, are able to outproduce not just America, but all of NATO 4 times over military industrial capacity.
Because they're an industrial power. That's why they've been that way since the Tsar age, and the Soviets kind of like derailed it a little bit. You don't think so? Tsar age?
No, I think no. There was some industrialization in the Donbass, for example, but Russia was heavily behind industry by World War I, which is one of the things that the Soviets did. They did rapid industrialization. Stalin, especially, rapid industrialization, and there were problems with it, but they did achieve that, and they were able to produce a war machine that was capable of defeating the Germans eventually, but at heavy loss. Russia has always been behind Europe industrially. Again, you look at the history of the Industrial Revolution, kind of started London and like Manchester,
UK,
and then Netherlands and Germany, and at the same time there was an Englishman who came over to the Donbass and set up some factories there, and so the Donbass was one of these heartlands of industrialization, the Industrial Revolution, and the rest of Russia as well sort of caught up to it. But historically, that's been the stereotype.
Before Ukraine got completely leveled because of the cokehead of Kiev, or the goblin, whatever you want to call him, Zelensky,
the Rat
Dictator.
King.
Yeah, the Rat King, like that one. You could still see a lot of the industrialization from the in Ukraine and Eastern Ukraine. Yeah,
and
even the way the cities are built, they're very
the Donbass had lots of coal and resources, etc. Around the Dnipro, this is some of the richest places of Ukraine because of the industrialization, and not just of Ukraine, but of the Soviet Union. A lot, like Ukraine was like the richest country per capita of the Soviet Union, and it's only because with the fall of the Soviet Union, there hasn't been any mechanism to stabilize the corruption. So Ukraine, it's becoming more rampant, and because it's a smaller power, the USA came in, destabilized things. Whereas in Russia, At first, they couldn't stabilize with the collapse of the Soviet Union, like in Poland, because of the size difference. But then you had Putin come in, and his power and influence stabilized it. Now, it didn't fix it, and he's still fixing it. But 25 years on, where Russia was on its knees, it's now atop the world as a superpower. So they had this, because of the influence of Putin and the scale of Russia, they were able to stabilize the corruption. Whereas in Ukraine, especially because of the USA, there's been no regulating influence on the corruption, and it's led to this war today.
Yeah, it's a heavily corrupt country. I've been to both. I've been to Ukraine and Russia. I spent extensive time in Ukraine and Kiev region, and it's just unbelievably corrupt. In Russia, when I was in Moscow, it was very. You could tell this was a very industrialized city. Like, this was very well built, very expansive city that was once a great place, for industry. It's still there. The infrastructure is still there. We know. But it's been bled dry because of the Soviet collapse and because of the Western expansionism into Eastern Bloc and this NATO and trade embargoes and tariffs and yada, yada, yada. It's the same old song. The Europeans, Russia bad. But then when we have a fucking war, or there's some kind of economic disparity, oh, we need Russia. Please help us, Russia. Please. It's just the same old song.
Well, the interesting thing, I remember, I think it was 2024, there was an article out that said, for the first time in history, Russia is at a greater level of economic development than the rest of Europe. It's certainly growing more heavily, and it's doing better than not just Western Europe, but than Europe, for the first time in centuries, if not ever, because of the war and the self-inflicted sanctions of the EU against the EU. So because
and they are self-inflicted.
European communism and Russian capitalism.
Yeah, the socialism, as if you've ever read Karl Marx, what the hell is the damn Communist Manifesto? He does talk about that socialism is the transition of capitalism into communism, and it's the intermediary between the two. If you've ever read it, his work,
I have a better definition of socialism, which is socialism is when the government does something.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, the thing is hasn't Europe consistently been socialist? Besides the UK,
capital is the accumulation of capital, which is land, plants, people, money, and maybe another one. There's four factors of capital. One thing, when you look at the USA, is it capitalist? Well, they have the largest federal government, the greatest spending. I mean, compare them to the CCP, and if you count all the corporations and all the kind of government adjacent workers, and you compare it to the CCP, where they're more explicitly government workers, they're about the same, probably. I don't know. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but it's a massive government, which is socialism, right? Socialism is when government does something. But you look at the capitalism, look at the production, look at the industrial capacity, the agrarian capacity, and the service capacity, and you're like, well, hang on a minute. It seems as though there's a real case to be made that even China may be more capitalistic or doing capitalism better than America and Russia as well. And you look at the EU and you look at, how would I characterize the EU? Yes, it's Europe, and yes, Europe has had this capitalistic structure. But at the same time, I look at Europe and I look at the Brussels and I say, okay, well, this is a centralized bureaucracy with totalitarian regulations trying to control the economy and issue central decrees. As well, they're trying to destroy and subvert the nations under them, rule them with an iron fist, and impose, Hungary says we don't want like 1 million refugees, and the EU says we're going to sanction you, Hungary, and we're not going to give you things that we've promised you. And they're like, what is this? We were treated better under the Warsaw Pact.
That's what's going on here in Georgia. Is they passed laws that the EU didn't like, and they were like, "No, you're not going to be." I mean, Georgia was. You understand? Georgia the country itself and the way it's governed and the laws and the regulation, it's more EU and how it functions than Turkey or any other country that's trying to acquire EU status that I've ever been and worked. And I've been in all these different EU status countries. I've been there, lived there, worked there. And Georgia is probably the most probably one of the most advanced as far as like, the governance and transparency. But unfortunately, this Dream Party that has been put in power by the Obama administration, yes, it was put in power by Obama. It was endorsed and put in power. I have no personally people that, it is what it is. But yeah, they pretty much derailed the economy over the period of time. They are neutral with Russia. That was the reason why Obama put them in power here, or the why they influenced this party to take over, was because the Saakashvili because Saakashvili was Bush's guy, and Bush basically helped put him in power and his government, the United Party. And they were a little, when the Obama came in, the Obama administration, they were like, oh yeah, these guys are a little too capitalist, too libertarian for us, so we don't really want to work with them. So we'll work with people that are more moderate. So they were like, well, we'll get this Dream Party in power, and they've been in power ever since. And obviously, they pretty much don't really want to be as capitalist or free market as the previous party and previous administration here in Georgia. And they are very neutral with Russia. And now that Europe is now like, well, we don't align with any countries that are neutral with Russia. We want you to set up another front in Georgia. And they're like, well, that's not what we were told when we were put in power here by the Obama administration. We were here basically to keep neutral and not stir shit up in Russia. So you're telling us to do the opposite now. All right, well, fuck off then. And that's what happened, basically, in a nutshell. I gave you the brief of what's going on in Georgia politics in like a 2-minute rant, but go ahead.
The power isn't neutral. And the one thing you can say about the East, about China, Russia, and others, they say, look, we respect sovereignty. We want to do business, right? The Chinese, we want to do business. Saudi Arabia, Iran, sit down and establish some peace, establish diplomatic relations. China was able to do that where America was not in 40 years. Why? Because the Chinese say it's not good for business. Let's just, you disagree on some things. All right.
Yeah, Gerald Sente says America's business is war, China's business is business. And I mean, there's some truth to that, and now, to that idiom.
Yes. But America hides it through veneers. So, for example, Trump says the Chinese are taking over Panama Canal. So, what are they? Like, what's going on? Oh, okay. So there's some contract that the Chinese won, and so there's Chinese workers doing that. So you can buy out their contracts and send them home if you want.
Not my backyard. Just kidding. Go ahead.
And they say, all right, we've sold Panama Canal to BlackRock. And they're like, oh, yeah. That's a private company, isn't it?
BlackRock, i.e.
that's the U.S. government.
Yeah, like Halliburton's corporation. No, that's the U.S. government. They own 98% of the military contracts.
Through a veneer, and people, and the subjects of the West think, oh, BlackRock, it's not the U.S. government because it's BlackRock, it's Larry Fink. No, that's the U.S. government. But you don't seem to realize that.
Yeah, it's basically that's the corporationism that we were talking about. We talked about this in a previous podcast, the 14th Amendment and corporationism, and the fact that America under the 14th Amendment became a corporation. And through this corporationism, private companies are not really private. They are basically government orientated. It's like fascism, basically.
Sure, and this is why I say China, like, are they better at capitalism than USA, for example?
Well, they're the opposite. They're communists, so they're obviously the opposite of fascism.
They're communist, but it's socialism with Chinese characteristics. So in China, you will have a private corporation, and then you'll have an actual CCP appointer that's working with them. Whereas in America, you just have all the regulations, and you have to abide by the government or else, and all these things. It's less overt, but it's the same ending. It's still government control and economics.
Yeah, the same shit, different stank, but it's still the same shit nonetheless. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I actually been in China, worked in China as well, and like when I was there, the people that I talked to, they said basically the Chinese were more capitalist than Americans were. That was the direct quote from people living in China and working in China for a decade or more. They said this, so you're not too far off.
Yeah, and I don't have experience with China, but that's what I hear as well. And I look at the Chinese economy, and there's a lot of funny stuff going on. But at the same time, there's 1.4, 1.5 billion of them, and they do have a mass industrial manufacturing base. Whereas America, there's a lot of funny stuff going on, and they don't have the industrial manufacturing base that they ought to. So,
yeah, I mean, but China, at the same time, before you go off on your spiel, I guess, from what I understand, in China, there is some deindustrialization there. There is offshoring in China by Chinese government, as well as corporations that have basically offshored to there. Now they're offshoring to Southeast Asia and other places,
like Vietnam, Cambodia.
Yeah, and that's where the unemployment's coming from. The unemployment numbers I was talking about with the mass unemployment is this offshoring, because the Chinese people can't leave China. They're passport controlled, so they're not allowed to leave mainland China without written authorization by the CCP. So that's what's causing a lot of the issues there. And then versus in America, if they offshore and they're like, hey, we're offshoring, we're going to send some people to here so you can train people to take your job, basically. So you at least have a job temporarily, and you can go overseas and work and make some money and try to figure out what you're going to do after, you train these people to take your job. But like in China, they don't have that option. So that's part of the reason why they have such massive unemployment right now. But I don't know. What were we going to say before? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was going to say that this veneer of power and, pursuing ideology and not business is what's led to the conflict in Ukraine. And it continues 100%. To lead the European policy today, where America, under Trump, has said, let's return to the facts and reality. And the EU and London have said, we're going to double down. This is the word they use. This is one of those words that they use in their repertoire. We are going to double down on Ukraine. And of course, the first rule of crisis management is when you're in a hole, stop digging. Whereas the EU, we're going to double down and keep supporting Ukraine. Why? Your economies are in the toilet. There is not popular support for this. It's an illegitimate war. The Russians are winning. Even if you were able to mobilize Europe for to support this war, it's logistically just the numbers aren't on your side. So unless you want to really escalate the war to nuclear Armageddon, which why would you want to do that? To defeat Russia because Putin bad. So this is completely unhinged, deranged, detached, ideological fanaticism that's leading the world to ruin. And this is the characterization of Europe. So that they want to praise Zelensky because, well, Zelensky said when the war started, I need bullets, not a ride out of here. No, he didn't. That was made up in London by MI6. These are all just narratives. Why is Zelensky a praised leader? Because he's fighting the Russians. Yeah, he's destroyed his country in a war that could never be won. Why did people say that this war could be over in a couple of weeks? Because there's no way that just logistically that Ukraine is capable of defeating Russia. Now, okay, they said we're going to fight, and it's not just they said we're going to fight. There was a signed agreement in Istanbul. Every page was signed or initialed at least, and it was like, okay, let's go. Zelensky, can you ratify this? And Boris Johnson flies in under orders from MI6, CIA, White House, Washington, London. Don't sign, we're going to fight. And that's what happened. So they're going to double down on this. Why? And it's
about money. It's about money. It's about money. It's about defense contracts, about minerals, it's about oil. This is what I wrote in my article on Locals channel 3 years ago. The first post on the Locals channel, I wrote that it said, this war is about resources. And that's what I said in the beginning of the podcast with the clip that I gave you. It's a resource war, just like any other war, just like the Gaza war. Yeah, go ahead.
I've just posted a clip in the StreamYard chat. If you want to play that to Twitter, just a quick video.
1 second. Oh, okay. Yeah,
It's kind of an alternative interpretation of the video we saw at the start of the stream. Or maybe it's caught from a different angle.
All right, let me go and play it. The stage.
To Hunter. You know, I think the Secret Service probably still has it somewhere.
I have been stealing the money.
I'm sorry, what's that now?
I must to speak honestly. I steal many of USA dollars to Ukraine. Millions. Some dollars for some oligarchs also. Some for American bureaucrats also.
Well, we know that, but why are you telling me this?
Because, Mr. Trump, if you end war, we cannot steal any more money. We must continue war.
No, the war must end. Your people are dying, Zelensky. They're dying.
But I want to steal more money. What do you want? Fellatio, I can do it.
No, I don't want fellatio. No.
Are you sure? I did for Biden.
Okay, that is what we call oversharing. Look, there's nothing you have that I want. You're not going to convince me to keep this war going. You don't have the cards.
I not play cards.
No, I know you're not literally playing cards. It's a metaphor. It's like I'm playing 4D chess and you're playing checkers.
No, I not play checkers. There is no checkerboard, you see.
Okay, let's try this. I am in the driver's seat, okay? Do you understand that expression?
No, but we are not in car.
No, you're right. You're right. We're not in a car. That's true.
Listen, Mr. Trump, I am actor/comedian. I crave attention. Since the start of war, I get worshipped by presidents. I'm worshipped by Hollywood. If war ends, no more attention, no more worship. With all due respect, Mr. Trump, this war must last forever.
I tell you what, if you agree to end this war, we will do a remake of Friends, and you can play Ukrainian Chandler Bing. How does that sound?
Oh, I love the Friends. This is favorite show of me. I am such a Monica.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's sign the thing, and then I'll go show you the room where Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky did it.
Oh, yes, this is funny because I just say I'm such a Monica. Maybe we will go in a room and you can be Bill Clinton and I will be Monica. Yes?
You know what? Forget the room. Let's just sign the document. Does anyone have a pen? Phil? Where's Phil? I need a pen. Somebody give me a damn pen.
I got a funnier clip. Hold on. Let me show you. This is I posted this on the 1 second.
Looking forward to it.
I'm retarded?
In my many minds, my heart doesn't always agree. What I'm thinking inside.
Funny stuff.
This war must continue because I need stealing the money and attention. Lots of money.
I mean, that's what I see in a lot of these developing economies is you got a lot of people in politics with their hands out, you know, and they always need money for some reason. You see them driving nice cars and, you know, living in nice flats. And it's like, where'd you get that money from? Like, you're just a politician. Oh, I earned it. I'm like, okay. Yeah. How are your knee pads doing? They wore out yet?
War is a racket, right? Weapons, debts, and lies. And it's a good racket. But for those in charge, they've got all their capital aligned for this policy. They can endlessly justify the coffers of the country to fund this necessary war. So it's endless war, endless profits. And of course, you know, this is something Julian Assange was talking about 20 years ago. The goal is not a quick war or a successful war, but an endless war. So why did Afghanistan end in 2021? So that the Ukraine war could go forward in 2022.
Just like the Ukraine war is ending and the Gaza war is ending for the new war in China. Keep your eyes on China.
I hope not. I hope not, because I don't see this.
China already said the CCP already said that they're ready to go to war.
Yeah, but that's posturing. Like,
but I don't.
If someone says I can beat you up, you say no, I can beat you up.
I don't
You
think
can't beat me up. My dad's bigger than your dad.
Exactly. I don't think the Chinese people want to fight a war, but like Gerald Celente had said, he said that there might be a war with China. It might happen.
But I listen to Russian people that say we don't want to fight a war. We don't want to fight a war with Europe, with Ukraine, with America. But I say, look, but the war is being fought against you, so you don't have a choice. So to get on board because you don't have a choice. Now with China, it doesn't make sense to me. One thing that I've seen Ukrainians champion, laugh about, and consistently is they say, "Haha, we've sunk the Moskva, the like lead frigate of the Russian Black Sea fleet." They say, "Haha, we've sunk this other ship in the Black Sea from Odessa," and I think, okay, like, congratulations, military success. Is that more reflective of your tactics, your superior weapons, or just of the nature of naval combat and the ineffectiveness of defense against missiles? So, like, the point is, if American naval power wants to attack China, if the Russians from Crimea are being sunk from Odessa, there's 1 million miles between the USA and China, 7,000, whatever. Everything's going to get sunk. Like, sure, you can have submarines to try and blockade China, but like Chinese missiles, there's no way logistically you can defeat China and about Taiwan if that's what this is about. Exactly. Just not possible.
Yeah, and that goes back to World War II with Japan, where like most of the ships didn't even make it to the Japanese shores and vice versa. They were killed. They were destroyed in the middle of the ocean. There's like a graveyard in the middle of I think it's not Midway. I think it's Midway, or it's between there. But yeah, there was actually a movie documentary about it with Tom Hanks that was on Apple TV. I watched it. It was okay. But they said like so many ships were just lost at sea, just sunk because they couldn't even make it any further than, it is what it is. It was in the Atlantic and it was on the Pacific. But just none of these ships had made it. Like the kamikazes that hit Pearl Harbor, it was a one-way trip for them. They weren't coming back. They didn't even put landing gear on it because they were like, "You're not landing. Like, it's a one-way trip, guys. This is it. Sacrifice for the greater good." Space Monkey being shot in outer space. And I think at this point in time, with the Zoomer and the action, the millennial generation, we're just a little too smart for our own good, and we have a sense of not necessarily a sense of entitlement, but just a sense that it's like, dude, why? That all they call the Y generation why? You know what I mean? Like in the military, there's actually there's like they have for the recruiter or for the what is it, the drill sergeants, they have an actual book on how to deal with Y generation and training. And it's the Y generation. Why? Because the last question is why am I doing this? So they're like, here, go do this. Like, why? They want to know why, because they're just, they're so analytical, because of the education that I mean, this is a very, the Zoomer and Y generation are some of the highest educated people in the history of the world, especially with the access to the World Wide Web and social media and different things. Very, very well informed generation, Zoomer and X, Y and Zoomer. And then the Alpha is going to be even more educated than all of us, especially with AI. They're going to be like cyborgs.
Well, that probably, but there's also a lot of the younglings that are giving up their critical thought and critical.
The brain drain. Yeah, the brain drain. Yeah, that happens.
I've developed my cognitive faculties, and then I utilize AI as a tool to increase my abilities. I can still write an essay without AI. I can still do everything without it. Right. I try not to write essays with AI. I use AI to help me plan, do some of the research, and then I do it myself. And then I run it through AI for optimization and things.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's a tool. It's not meant as it's a tool. It's not meant as a crutch. It's not meant as the go-to. Just like when you took math in school, we had calculators that could do it for us, but they were like, yeah, don't use calculator. Go ahead and just work the problems, show your formulas. And if you couldn't show your formulas, you failed. I don't know if they do that anymore. I mean, but I do remember.
It depends on the math, right? The point of math is not actually to solve the problems, but to increase your level of abstract conceptualization and problem solving.
Correct. That's the whole point. It's just like chess,
and that's why it's
they don't
difficult
teach it anymore. Yeah.
But they don't teach that sentence about math. If they just teach, like, why are we learning this? You're not. It doesn't matter about the math. I don't really care that you can solve for X. I need to, like, I'm just trained. It's just problem solving to train your brain.
Yeah, show your work.
Yeah, and to think, to be able to think that, okay, 2x plus y equals 8c, and you can just see all these higher levels of abstract logic and put them all together, and you're able to solve those problems. And problem solving, like, that's the purpose of studying mathematics academically or in school, is to problem solve. It's not, no one actually cares that you need, why do we need to know trigonometry? You don't. You need to be you need to be able to develop those systems of analytical and logical capacity. That's all it is. And this is a problem with modern education as well as other things. They don't recognize those most primitive important things. It's all about the result or the policy or the procedure, really.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, we're going to close. What's your final remarks? Or have you kind of come to your conclusions about like the future of the EU and like Zelensky and the situation? Economy.
It's obvious that the war should come to a close sooner than later. And indeed, we believe that the script is by the end of the year, probably before the end of the summer, or maybe by the end of the summer, the war should come to a close. But the London,
well, at least a ceasefire. At least a ceasefire by summer. Yeah.
Why would Russia don't want a ceasefire? They want to solve the problem, because you want to have a ceasefire to what? To come and attack more? Like the Ukrainians.
Oh no, the war is funded. The war is over. It's just that they need a ceasefire so they can start.
Then why would Russia accept? Why would Russia accept a ceasefire? We can negotiate.
You need a ceasefire to pull troops out of the war zone. You
need
to have ceasefire and start pulling troops back.
Why would it be in Russia's interest to pull their troops out of the war zone?
No. The Ukrainian troops out of the war zone. The ceasefire is going to be coming from the Ukraine side, not on the Russian side. Russia's just going to stand down. That's it. They're just like, hey, this is our land now. We're defending it. We're going to stay put, and Ukraine's going to start pulling back. They're going to have to. That's what the letter was that they wrote to Trump is, I will start pulling troops out of the. Yeah, that's what needs to happen. And then declare a DMZ like I predicted 2 years ago, that there would be a ceasefire. There would be troops being pulled back from Ukraine's side. Peace deal would come through Trump, and then they would declare a DMZ.
And I disagree with that, and we'll see, right? I think it's not a DMZ. I think Ukraine is going to be, Austria-sized, or kind of Finlandized is what it used to be known as, which is to say no NATO troops, neutral. It's either neutral or Russian aligned. That's the choices. There's no EU troops, probably no UN troops. Maybe Ukraine will be demilitarized, a max of 50, maybe 80,000 troops, no more. Otherwise, Russia comes in, occupies it more. Like, I don't think they want a truce or a ceasefire. They want an end to the conflict, and they say we've got three fundamental things to end this, to start this conflict, to end it. We want the Donbass. They've mostly got that. We want denazification, which is a political reality, and we want demilitarization, which is to say you don't get an army anymore. You don't get to build up to 100,000 troops. You don't get to threaten us, and the West certainly don't get to position their military on Ukrainian soil. That's all the Russians have been seeking, and
that's
won.
America got for Japan. They got exactly that for Japan.
What Japan did is they came on board, and they got, this is the choice they received. Do you want to sign in blue or black? And that's what Ukraine needs to do. So we surrender. I like blue.
That's it. Let's close it there. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Remember, Adam Maxwell is on Liberty Rising group. His links in the description for his Telegram group, his locals, and he's also on Rumble and on YouTube as well. And of course, join my locals channel. Adam's got a locals channel as well. Mine's $4 a month. Rumble 3 gets you $3 off your first month's membership. Membership perks include deep dives, all kinds of deep dives, content that's not on any social media outlets other than locals. And you're going to get a free copy of my book, Unleash Your Inner Sigma Male. It's a leadership book, basically. It's not about Sigma Male, really. It's just Sigma Male is part of it, but it's basically a leadership book for how to navigate through turbulent times so that you can become independent, financially independent, and a leader, and very successful in relationships and how you deal with day-to-day activities, family, whatever. That being said, like and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Donations are at the bottom. I got all kinds of sponsors, e-bikes, Robinhood, and I think there's some other stuff down there. I forget. So, oh well, it is what it is. Thanks, guys. Enjoy. Thanks, Adam. We'll see you guys again. Oh, also Terrence Pop's coming on next podcast. I've confirmed that, but we'll get a date and time, and I'm going to post it. And we're going to be talking about vampires, time vampires. And it's going to be part of the Sigma Male leadership series. Thanks, guys. Good night. Do Sigma males make good leaders? That's the other question. Yeah, I would say so. I would say that Sigma males make excellent leaders. And the reason why they make excellent leaders is because they're authentic, they're transparent, excellent communication skills, and they often possess